The topic for discussion is balance of trade and balance of payment. Balance of trade simply means a statement that shows the values of all visible export and visible import of a country in a year. Visible export and visible import of a country simply means the export and import of goods only. Some examples of visible export of Nigeria include cocoa, rubber, crude oil, and so many other examples. While visible import of this country, Nigeria, include electronics, cars, mobile phones, computers, and so on and so forth. So that record where the value of goods only are recorded for export and import of a country is called visible balance, or BOT. While balance of payment is a wider concept of balance of trade, because in this record both goods and services of export and import of a country are recorded. By definition, we say it is a statement that shows the values of both the visible and the invisible export and import of a country in a period of 1 year. Invisible export and invisible import of a country are export and import of services. Services are invisible or intangible because we cannot see them, we cannot touch them, but they are rendered. Next, the difference between balance of trade and balance of payment. Like I said earlier, balance of trade is a narrow concept of balance of payment, while balance of payment is a wider concept of balance of trade, because balance of trade only records goods that are exported and imported in a country in 1 year. That is, it's a record that deals with only visible export and visible import of a country in a given period of time, usually a year. While balance of payment is a record that deals with both the visible and invisible export and import of a country in a given year. Next is types of balance of payment. And of course, there are two types. We have balanced, otherwise known as equilibrium balance of payment, and two, unbalanced or disequilibrium balance of payment. By equilibrium balance of payment, we mean a situation where the values of a country's exports are equal with the values of our import in a given year. X equal to M. By X we mean export, while M represents import. Take for example, in 2020, let's say the total values of export of Nigeria was 200 million naira, while the total value of our import was 200 million naira. In such a case, there is no surplus, there is no deficit, no gain, no shortage. That is what we call balanced or equilibrium balance of payment. 2. Disequilibrium balance of payment. This occurs when the values of a country's export either exceed or less than the values of our import. If the BOP of a country is surplus, it means that the values of a country's export exceed the values of our import for that year. Let's take that same example. Assuming in 2020 the values of Nigeria's export was 200 million naira and the values of our import was 120 million naira. It means that for that year, Nigeria was having a surplus of 80 million naira because export exceeded import. But BOP will be unfavorable if the reverse is the case. That is, if the values of a country's export are less than the values of our import in a given year. Again, assuming in 2020 the values of export of Nigeria was 200 million naira, while the value of our import was 300 million naira. It means that for that year, Nigeria as a nation have a shortage or a deficit of 100 million naira. Such is called unfavorable balance of payment. Next is reasons or causes of balance of payment deficit. Balance of payment deficit can also be called balance of payment adverse. There are many causes to this. Before explaining each of them, the classical economist opined that export makes a country richer while import impoverishes a country. Because of that, countries were encouraged to promote export and discourage import, because export is an injection while import is a leakage. And anything that makes export to be lower than import, BOP deficit must surely occur. The first I have here is excess demand for foreign made product. When a country over-rely on importation, like Nigeria, we import almost all goods and services into this country. Such a country can never escape a deficit balance of payment. Next is a fall in export. When the export of a country is lower than her import, BOP deficit is inevitable. Again, debt servicing. When a country borrows money, obtain a loan, such a country must service that loan borrowed. In such a case, the country, after paying the interest on the loan and part of the loan back to her creditors, in most cases there will be little or no money to invest on profitable ventures. There will be little or no money to invest on production of quality goods that can be exported. Such a country will always experience balance of payment deficit. Again, mono economy is another cause of BOP deficit. When a country almost entirely depends on only one sector as a major source of revenue and foreign exchange. As we all know, one source of income is usually not enough. And when a country practices mono economy, BOP deficit is inevitable. Again, political instability. When a country is experiencing social unrest, frequent changes in government, insurgency, militancy, and so many more, such a country can never do well in terms of production and distribution of goods and services, because life is being threatened, businesses are closed, and because of this, production is almost at a lower level. And when this happens, it means that export will drop greatly while import will increase. When this happens, BOP deficit becomes the order of the day. Again, we are talking about solutions of balance of payment deficit. How do we avoid or tackle or resolve balance of payment problem or deficit? Of course, we have so many solutions. Number one is to restrict importation. Discourage importation. This means that BOP deficit can be corrected if a country discourages importation by using some instruments like a quota or quotas, tariff, sometimes outright ban to reduce importation, so that there will be less leakages in the economy. This can resolve deficit balance of payment of a country. Next is control of foreign exchange. This is in the hands of the government. Foreign exchange, if not properly controlled, can encourage importers to import more goods and services into a country. Anything that encourages importation brings BOP deficit. Therefore, the government must put in place a strict foreign exchange control to discourage importers and to discourage importation. If this can be done, like I said earlier, BOP deficit will be a thing of history. Again, another solution to BOP deficit is for the government to set up import substitution firms. What do we mean by import substitution firms? They are firms that are set up to produce goods to replace those goods that were formerly imported into the country. When a country consciously puts this into practice by producing more goods to replace those they were importing before, it means that importation in such a country will drop, and by so doing, balance of payment deficit can be corrected. Setting up export promotion industries. We promote export, like I said earlier, and discourage import. What are export promotion industries? Again, they are industries or firms set up either by government or by private investors to produce quality goods for export. If this again is dutifully followed, a country will experience high volume of exports. And of course, export makes a country richer. The richer a country becomes, the better the balance of payment will be. Next is decrease in government expenditure. This means that our government at state, local, and federal level must, as a matter of fact, reduce their expenditure on imported products. If everybody can reduce their expenditure on importation of all kinds of goods, such a country will experience affluence, will experience balance of payment surplus instead of a deficit. Again, government can also help to correct balance of payment deficit by giving both the import substitution and export promotion firms subsidy to help reduce their cost of production, because subsidy is an encouragement to firms to keep doing what they are doing even better. If this is done, it means that export in such a country will increase while import will decrease. Again, once this happens, balance of payment deficit will become a surplus within a matter of time.